The property manager called, his voice so frantic it sounded like he was about to explode. Your window from the 12th floor fell and smashed 5 cars downstairs. BMWs, Audis, all luxury cars. You'd better prepare $400,000 in compensation. I was holding my instant noodles and almost burst out laughing. Man, my place doesn't even have walls, where would a window come from? The property manager got furious. You can still laugh? If you don't come to the property office tomorrow to sign the compensation agreement, we're calling the police. I laughed even louder. Go ahead, call them. Please, ask the officers to take a look while they're at it. That apartment of mine has been an unfinished project for 2 years. The developer hasn't even built up to my floor. Where would a window come from? The other end of the line went silent. The next day, the property manager, along with the developer's boss who had a grim look on his face, opened my door. The call from the property office came, and the voice was very aggressive. Xie Lin, I answered. Your window fell and smashed 5 cars downstairs. Get over here and deal with it now. I was holding a bowl of instant noodles. The steam wafted into my face. Which apartment? Jade River South, Phase 3, Building 12, Unit 1201. Aren't you the owner? The voice on the other end of the line was very impatient, with a commanding tone. Yes, I'm the owner. I put the noodle bowl on the table. What kind of cars did it hit? You still have the nerve to ask about the cars? BMWs, Audis, they're all nice cars. The car owners are all waiting here. Our initial estimate for the repair costs is at least $400,000. You'd better get the money ready. Manager Yang's voice grew louder. Like a rooster whose tail had been stepped on. I kind of wanted to laugh. $400,000, and that's just the initial estimate. Don't think you can just drag this out. Let me tell you, if you don't resolve this today, you're not going anywhere. I picked up my chopsticks and lifted a noodle. Manager Yang, is it? It's me. You get your butt over here right now. Are you sure it was the window from 1201? Of course. I saw the entire window fall with my own eyes. What kind of shoddy renovation do you have? How can anyone live there? His words were full of aggression, as if I were already a criminal. I laughed. You're laughing? Manager Yang's voice instantly shot up an octave, like a gasoline can being ignited. Xie Lin, what kind of attitude is this? Do you have any idea how much trouble you're in? Can you afford to pay $400,000? You, Manager Yang, first, you need to calm down. How can I calm down? The owners of 5 luxury cars are ready to eat me alive. Get over here now. Go there for what? To sign. Sign the compensation agreement. Otherwise, we're calling the police. His threat was direct, and also powerless. Fine, go ahead and call them. There was a pause on the other end of the line. It seemed he hadn't expected me to react this way. What do you mean? You want to be a deadbeat? I mean, you should hurry up and call the police. I said slowly, you'd better have the officers come quickly. And have them do an on-site investigation while they're at it. Do you think you can get out of this just by calling the police? I'm telling you, the security cameras recorded everything. It was the window from your apartment that fell. Manager Yang had regained his confidence. He thought he had found my weak spot. Is that so? I chuckled. Well, that's perfect. Let's have the officers take a look. That apartment of mine in the Jadeite Zhongnan complex. The developer abandoned the project 2 years ago. I spoke very slowly, making sure he could hear every single word. Forget about windows, they haven't even gotten to my floors. Structural walls yet. My place doesn't even have a single complete wall. You tell me, what window was I supposed to use to smash those cars? The other end of the line went dead silent. Manager Yang, who had been shouting himself hoarse just a moment ago. Now even his breathing had disappeared. I can imagine the look on his face right now must be priceless. After about half a minute, the call was disconnected with a clatter. It wasn't that he hung up on purpose, it was more like he lost his grip on the phone. And dropped it on the ground. This world is truly a strange place. There are always people funnier than a stand-up comedian. Yang Hemming hung up the phone. His mind still reeling. The phone's screen was cracked from the fall. But he couldn't be bothered with that. He stood in the parking lot, looking at the dented and battered luxury cars as cold sweat trickled down his temples. The building isn't finished? Impossible. He shook his head hard. That owner, Xie Lin, must be lying. He's trying to stall for time. Yes, that must be it. He took out a cigarette. His hand trembling so much it took him several tries to light it. The owner of the BMW next to him came over. Manager Yang, what's happening? When is the owner coming to pay for the damages? Soon, soon. Yang Hemming forced a smile that looked worse than a grimace. The owner has a bit of an attitude. He's a real troublemaker. But don't you worry, he can't get away. While he was outwardly reassuring the car owner, inwardly his heart was pounding with uncertainty. In truth, he hadn't seen with his own eyes which floor the window had fallen from. The scene at the time was a complete mess. Someone had looked up and shouted, I think it was the 12th floor. And he just believed it. He looked up the owner's information for the 12th floor, found Xie Lin's phone number, and tried to get rid of this hot potato as quickly as possible. If it was really like Xie Lin said, that the building wasn't even finished, then who would be responsible? The developer? Or them, the property management? Yang Hemming didn't dare to think any further. The more he thought about it, the more scared he became. No, it absolutely can't be that the building is unfinished. It has to be Xie Lin's fault. He's just a deadbeat trying to get out of paying. Yes, that's it. After Yang Hemming finished psyching himself up, his eyes became fierce again. He walked to the side and made a phone call. Boss Lin, it's Xiao Yang from property management. His voice instantly turned sycophantic, and his back instinctively hunched over. A lazy voice came from the other end of the line. What is it, Mr. Lin? A small issue has come up at our development. Yang Hemming carefully chose his words. In Phase 3, Building 12. I don't know how it happened, but a window fell out. It smashed a few cars parked below. The window. Mr. Lin's voice turned cold. Which construction crew did the work? They can't even handle a simple thing like this? No. Yang Hemming rushed to explain. It wasn't a construction issue. Mr. Lin, I looked into it. The unit where the window fell, Unit 1201, has already been handed over. It's an issue with the owner's own renovations. He lied without even blinking, shifting the blame entirely onto someone else. The owner. I've contacted him, but the kid is incredibly arrogant. He's trying to be a total deadbeat. Yang Hemming began to embellish the story. He claims our development is just a bunch of rotten tail unfinished buildings, and that his floor wasn't even built properly. He wants to use that as an excuse to extort us for a fortune. He intentionally emphasized the words, rotten tail. He knew this was Mr. Lin's biggest trigger. And sure enough, after a few seconds of silence, Mr. Lin's voice came through the phone, ice cold. What's his name? Xie Lin. I'm heading over there now. I want to see who thinks they can ruin my company's reputation. A huge weight was lifted off Yang Hemming's chest. He let out a long sigh of relief. Now that he'd brought Mr. Lin into this, the matter was as good as settled. Yang Hemming put out his cigarette, that hypocritical smile plastered back onto his face. He walked back to the car owners. Everyone, please don't worry. The owner of our development is on his way. What he hates most are these irresponsible owners who try to squeeze us for money. I promise to give you all a satisfactory resolution today. He thumped his chest and spoke with absolute conviction, acting like the embodiment of justice. He never stopped to think if what Xie Lin said was actually the truth. How exactly would this farce he directed end? Half an hour later, a black Mercedes S-Class pulled into the parking lot. The car door opened, and a fat man wearing a Burberry shirt and a massive gold watch stepped out. This was the big boss, Lin Dacheng. Lin Dacheng glanced at the damaged vehicles. His eyebrows knitted together tightly. Manager Yang, where is he? His voice wasn't loud, but it was incredibly oppressive. Mr. Lin, that kid is at home and refuses to come out. Lin Dacheng gave a dismissive snort. He pulled a checkbook from his wallet, scribbled a few words, tore it off, and handed it to Yang Hemming. Give him 100,000 and tell him to shut his mouth. Make him take the responsibility. This was always his way of handling things. Simple, crude, and effective. Yang Hemming held the check, as if he were holding a royal decree, accompanied by several security guards. The two of them marched aggressively toward my place. I was just about to wash my instant noodle bowl when the doorbell rang. It was urgent and fierce. Through the peephole, I saw Yang Hemming's fawning face, and right beside him, I opened the door to that fat man with the brutish face. What is it? The moment Yang Hemming saw me, he immediately put on a cold, business-like expression. Xie Lin, this is Mr. Lin, from our development company. Mr. Lin has taken time out of his busy schedule to come here, specifically to solve your problem. He emphasized the word, your, heavily, as if I were the one causing all the trouble. Lin Dacheng looked me up and down, his eyes filled with contempt, as if he were looking at an ant he could crush without a second thought. Yang Hemming held that check out in front of me. Xie Lin, Mr. Lin is a magnanimous man. He won't hold this against you. This is 100,000 yuan. Take it, then go to the parking lot and sign the compensation agreement. And this whole thing will be over. He said it so matter-of-factly, as if this were some great gift he was bestowing upon me. I looked at the check. The words, 100,000 yuan, were written on it with a flourish. I took it. A faint smile appeared on the corner of Lin Dacheng's mouth. He thought I had given in. Then, right in front of them, I tore the check in half. And then I tore it again, into tiny pieces. I tossed them into the air, and the snow-white scraps of paper fluttered like butterflies, drifting down onto Yang Hemming's and Lin Dacheng's leather shoes. Yang Hemming's face instantly turned the color of pig's liver. Lin Dacheng's smile also froze on his face. He stared at me, his gaze as cold and venomous as a viper's. Kid, you've got some nerve, he said, enunciating every word. I looked at him. Frame me, and then use 100,000 yuan to shut me up? My voice wasn't loud, but the air around us seemed to drop a few degrees. Lin Dacheng laughed out of anger. He said the word, good, 3 times. Looks like if I don't teach you a lesson, you won't know who you're messing with. He shot a look at the security guards next to him. Those few burly men immediately started to surround me. The atmosphere instantly became tense. You want to get physical? I took a step back, leaning against the doorframe. Fine, but I suggest that before you do, we go somewhere first. Lin Dacheng narrowed his eyes. Where? Property, I said calmly. Jade River South, Phase 3, Building 12. Didn't you say the window I installed fell out? Let's go to the site together and see if my unit, 1201, even has a window. How about it, Mr. Lin? My question was like a needle, precisely popping Lin Dacheng's inflated ego. His face was ashen as he stared at me, speechless. Do you dare to go? Those 3 words. Everyone present heard them loud and clear. The guards behind him, who had been cracking their knuckles, were now a bit unsure of what to do, all looking at their boss. The owner of a development company, being publicly challenged by an unknown, small-time homeowner, asking if he dared to go to his own property. This was an utter humiliation. Lin Dacheng's Adam's apple bobbed up and down. He squeezed a few words out through his teeth. What's there to be scared of? He forcefully suppressed the rage in his heart. He tried to make himself look like he was still in control of the situation. Kid, today, I'm going to make you understand the meaning of death. He gave Yang Hemming a look. All those car owners, we'll go together. I'd like to see what kind of tricks you can pull today. Yang Hemming felt as if he'd been granted amnesty. He nodded repeatedly and turned to make the call. Wait, I stopped him. Everyone's eyes focused on me once again. Just a few people isn't lively enough. I took out my phone and unhurriedly opened up WeChat. Lin Dacheng's eyelid twitched. What do you mean? I ignored him and went straight into the Emerald Zhongnan group chat with over 300 people. I sent out a text to the homeowners group. Hello, fellow homeowners of Emerald Zhongnan Phase 3. I am Xie Lin, the owner of apartment 1201 in Building 12. Today, the property management and developer Lin came to me, saying a window from my apartment fell and smashed 5 cars downstairs. But I remember that Phase 3 has been an unfinished project for 2 years. The frame of Building 12 hasn't even been built up to the 12th floor. Now, developer Lin and property manager Yang want to take me to the scene to confront me and prove that it was my window that fell. I don't know much about construction, and I'm afraid they'll try to pull a fast one on me. Are there any neighbors who know about this stuff, or any neighbors who are free, who could come over and take a look? Help me act as a witness. See you in half an hour. See you in half an hour. See you in half an hour. Then I put my phone away. I looked up at Lin Dacheng and Yang Hemming, whose faces were now as black as the bottom of a wok. Developer Lin, there's strength in numbers. This way, you can't say I'm bullying you. I gave a slight smile. Can we go now? Yang Hemming's lips were trembling. He pointed at me, unable to speak for a long moment. He never imagined I'd dare to blow this whole thing up in the homeowners group chat. He knew better than anyone how much resentment towards the developer and property management had been building up in there. This wasn't looking for a witness, this was clearly tossing a lit bomb into a powder keg. The look in Lin Dacheng's eyes was no longer just cold, it was a venomous hatred that made him want to devour me alive. He clenched his fists tightly, the veins on the back of his hands bulging. He knew he was in an impossible situation. Going now meant facing not just Xie Lin, but a crowd of angry homeowners. Not going meant admitting he was guilty. Meant tacitly agreeing that everything Xie Lin said was true. No matter which option he chose, he was destined to lose all face today. And all of this was because he had been pushed into a corner, step by step, by this ordinary-looking young man in front of him. Go! Lin Dacheng squeezed the word out from between his teeth. He flung his hand violently and turned to walk downstairs. His retreating figure was filled with the fury of being cornered and the madness of an all-or-nothing gamble. Yang Hemming and the other security guards scrambled to follow him in a panic. I closed the door and calmly changed my shoes. I knew that today's drama had only just begun. And I wasn't just the main character. I was also the sole director. The entrance to the Emerald Zhongnan Phase 3 construction site had never been so lively. In front of that rusty iron gate, a crowd was gathered 3 layers deep. Among them were the 5 unlucky car owners. Everyone had long faces, sighing as they looked at their beloved cars. There was Lin Dacheng and the guards he brought, all of them looking aggressive. They were like a bunch of roosters ready for a scrap. Yang Hemming stood right beside Lin Dacheng. He kept wiping away sweat, his eyes darting nervously through the crowd. But even more people were arriving from all directions, the homeowners of Jade South. My WeChat message was like a depth charge, blowing up the homeowner group chat that had been silent for so long. 2 years of bottled-up resentment were completely ignited at that very moment. People came with the elderly and the young, bringing their entire families along. They gathered from various neighborhoods, packing the small construction site entrance so tight that not even a drop of water could get through. That was the scene I saw when I arrived. The crowd automatically parted to make a path for me. Xie Lin is here, don't be afraid, Xiao Xie. We've all got your back. That's right, there are hundreds of us here today. Let's see what this developer thinks he can do. Voices of support echoed from every side. I gave everyone a firm nod. I walked straight up to Lin Dacheng. The guards around him tensed up instantly. They instinctively tried to block me, but Lin Dacheng raised his hand to stop them. With hundreds of eyes watching him, if he still tried those petty tricks, it would only make him look even more guilty. You're quite the little instigator, aren't you? Lin Dacheng glared at me and said with a cold sneer. What do you gain from making such a huge scene? I just want to clear up one simple fact, I replied calmly. That's exactly how my window supposedly managed to fall and hit those cars. My voice wasn't loud, but everyone there heard me. A roar of laughter erupted from the crowd. An older lady yelled at the top of her lungs, "That's right. President Lin, we want to know too. How does a window grow out of a house that hasn't even been built yet? Do you developers have some kind of magic powers to just conjure them up?" That bit of sarcasm set the whole place off. "Yeah, show us some magic. President Lin, if you don't explain this clearly today, nobody's leaving. Refund our money. Unfinished buildings. Give us our money back." The crowd was furious. Their chants shifted from demanding an explanation to demanding refunds. Lin Dacheng's face turned from a pale green to a deep, bruised purple. He had intended to use his power and money today to crush a single disobedient homeowner. But he never expected to be checkmated like this, drowning in a sea of public outrage. The way he looked at me was full of regret and murderous intent. He regretted underestimating his opponents so much that he'd actually show up in person. He wanted nothing more than to kill the troublemaker who started all this. "Everyone, shut the hell up." Lin Dacheng roared suddenly. He had been the boss for years, after all, and that roar actually managed to quiet the crowd for a moment. He pointed at me, then at the desolate, unfinished building behind him. "You say the building hasn't reached the 12th floor, right? Fine. Today, I'm going to prove you wrong once and for all. Yang Hemming, open the gates. Let everyone in to see." Lin Dacheng looked like he was going for broke. "We're going up there right now. We'll count every single floor. I want everyone to see it with their own eyes today. Let's see if the problem is with the building I built, or if the problem is this guy, Xie Lin." He pointed to the simple concrete staircase leading to the roof. "Let's meet at the door of 1201, he said. He took the lead, pushing aside the security guard, and strode into the construction site like a general walking to his execution. It was both tragic and absurd. The crowd began to stir. No one had expected Lin Dacheng to actually dare to let everyone in. Could what he said be true? Was the building really built up to the 12th floor? Was Xie Lin lying? Countless doubtful eyes turned to look at me all at once. I smiled and followed him. The show was finally about to begin. The condition of the construction site was worse than I had imagined. The ground was covered with rebar, rubble, and dried concrete blocks. The air was filled with the smell of dust and mold. That so-called Building 12 was like a giant, unfinished skeleton, standing amidst overgrown weeds. Lin Dacheng walked at the very front. Behind him were Yang Hemming and a few security guards. Behind them were me and a massive crowd of homeowners. There was no elevator, we could only take the stairs. The staircase was just a roughly poured concrete frame with no handrails. There was a lot of loose rubble along the edges. One misstep and you could easily sprain your ankle. With every floor Lin Dacheng climbed, it was as if he was trying to pump himself up. His footsteps were heavy. His leather shoes made thudding sounds on the concrete floor. The homeowners followed behind. At first, some people were still murmuring among themselves, but as the floors got higher, everyone gradually fell silent. Every single person was using their own eyes to personally measure this home they had bought with their blood, sweat, and tears. The walls were gray, covered with holes and markings left from construction. On the doorways of many rooms, words like leaking and cracked wall were written in red paint. Those had been left by homeowners who had previously snuck in to inspect the place. The higher we went, the sloppier the construction work became. By the 8th floor, even the interior walls weren't painted. There was only a huge frame. By the 9th floor, the ground was still cluttered with unused building materials, rebar scattered messily everywhere. Yang Hemming's pace began to slow. His forehead was covered in sweat. Couldn't tell if it was from exhaustion or fear. He glanced back at me secretly several times. His eyes were filled with terror and pleading. I just looked at him, expressionless. It was too late to beg for mercy now. 10th floor. Lin Dacheng's voice was already a bit hoarse. He stood on the landing of the 10th floor, leaning on a bare pillar, panting heavily. Up here, they hadn't even started laying the bricks for the exterior walls. Wind poured in through the empty window frames, making our cheeks sting with pain. 11th floor. When he shouted this, his voice was already trembling slightly. The sight on the 11th floor made everyone gasp. This place was basically a rough, unfinished top-floor platform. The ground wasn't completely leveled. Above our heads were exposed rebar and formwork. The upward staircase came to an abrupt end here. At the top of the stairs, there was only the empty, gray sky. There was no way to get to the 12th floor. In fact, there was no so-called 12th floor at all. The building topped out at the 11th floor. Dead silence. The scene was utterly silent. Several hundred people just stood there on the top of the 11th floor, in the cold wind, looking at that broken staircase and the void beyond its end. Everyone understood, from the very beginning, what Xie Lin had said was true. This farce, starting from the moment property manager Yang Hemming made that call, was a complete and utter lie and threat. Mr. Lin. Yang Hemming's voice trembled like a sifting screen. His face was deathly pale, completely devoid of color, as he shakily pointed at the severed staircase. This, the 12th floor. Lin Dacheng stood at the highest point of the stairs, his body as rigid as a statue. He kept his head down. making it impossible to see his expression. But everyone could feel the destructive aura radiating from him. In front of hundreds of homeowners, he, a developer, didn't even know how many floors were in the building he built, yet he had the audacity to bring people here for a confrontation. He had become a joke. A massive joke. From the crowd, someone finally couldn't help but let out a laugh. That laugh was like a switch. In an instant, a mix of suppressed laughter, mockery, and angry curses echoed across the entire rooftop. "Oh my god, this is hilarious. You're really something else, Mr. Lin. Building floors with his mind, installing windows with his mind, and smashing cars with his mind too, right? You liar. You're all a bunch of liars. Refund us. You must give us a refund." Amidst the tsunami-like wave of ridicule, Lin Dacheng abruptly raised his head. His eyes were blood red, riddled with broken vessels. Like a wild beast cornered, he glared at me. His eyes filled with a hatred that could tear me to pieces. I met his gaze, slowly walked to the edge of that broken staircase, and then I lifted my foot. Stepping onto the highest step, standing beside Lin Dacheng, I extended my hand and pointed above our heads, at that empty void. Then I turned my head to look at him, and in a voice that wasn't loud, but just clear enough for him to hear, I calmly asked, "Mr. Lin, where is my window?" My question was like the last straw, completely crushing Lin Dacheng's teetering sanity. His blood-red eyes were locked on me, a gaze mixed with extreme humiliation, venomous resentment, and madness. He wanted to retort, he wanted to roar, to attack me with the most vicious words. But he opened his mouth, and couldn't utter a single word, because the truth was laid bare before him. Cold and indisputable, there was nothing above our heads, only the whistling cold wind, as if it were mercilessly mocking his foolishness and arrogance. The laughter from the crowd grew louder, more and more unrestrained. Hundreds of cell phones were raised high, their cameras like hundreds of eyes, greedily recording his pathetic appearance at that moment. These videos would soon spread to every corner of the city, making him, Lin Dacheng, the biggest laughingstock of the year. The dignity and authority he had built his entire life were torn to shreds and trampled underfoot in this instant. Useless. You're a piece of trash. Suddenly, Lin Dacheng let out a beast-like roar. He whipped around and violently grabbed the person next to him, the collar of Yang Hemming, who was already scared out of his wits. He had found an outlet for his rage. Since I can't win the argument, I'll just shift all the blame and humiliation onto the one who started all this. It was you. You're the one who told me his window fell out. You're the one who told me he wanted to extort money. You're the one who tricked me into coming here. Lin Dacheng's spit flew all over Yang Hemming's face. He was like an enraged lion, frantically shaking Yang Hemming's body, which had already gone limp as mud. Yang Hemming was so scared he was babbling incoherently. A foul, pungent smell came from his crotch. He had actually pissed himself on the spot. I don't know. I really didn't know the building wasn't finished. You don't know? Lin Dacheng landed a loud slap squarely across Yang Hemming's face. The sound was incredibly crisp. The jeering from the crowd stopped instantly. Everyone was stunned by this sudden turn of events. You're the property manager. You're in charge of this whole complex. And you're fucking telling me you don't know how many floors the building has? Lin Dacheng roared and slapped him again. You're a useless idiot. You're good for nothing but messing things up. You've completely disgraced my company. It was as if he wanted to repay Yang Hemming double for all the humiliation he had suffered that day. Yang Hemming's mouth was bleeding from the blows, and he was completely dazed. However, as the extreme fear and pain washed over him, his survival instincts kicked in and sobered him up. He knew he was done for today. Lin Dacheng would absolutely use him as a scapegoat, making him take the fall and bear the wrath of the car owner and all the other homeowners. Since he was dead either way, he might as well take someone down with him. It wasn't me. Yang Hemming suddenly burst out with unprecedented courage. Using all his strength, he shoved Lin Dacheng away. It was you. You're the one who wanted to come, he said, pointing at Lin Dacheng. He screamed hysterically when I reported to you on the phone. I told you that the homeowner mentioned the unfinished building. You're the one who didn't believe me. You said he was a scoundrel trying to extort money. You're the one who said you'd come and deal with him yourself. You wanted to teach him a lesson he wouldn't forget. You even gave me a check for 100,000 yuan and told me to shut him up. You wanted to use money to cover this up. Yang Hemming's words were like one heavy bomb after another, exploding in the crowd. Before, Lin Dacheng could have still portrayed himself as an innocent victim who had been deceived by his subordinate. But now, Yang Hemming's cornered animal accusations had completely torn away his last shred of dignity. He wasn't deceived. He knew there might be a problem. Yet he still chose to use power and money to suppress it, only to pick a fight he couldn't win. The nature of the situation had completely changed. Lin Dacheng's face went from purple with rage to ashen. He never expected Yang Hemming would dare to turn on him in public. He lunged forward like a madman, wanting to shut Yang Hemming's mouth. The two of them, one a property developer, the other a property manager, right there on the rooftop of the 11th floor of this unfinished building, started fighting like two mad dogs in front of a crowd of several hundred homeowners. I stood to the side, coldly watching the farce. Then I took out my phone and dialed 110. Hello, officer? I want to report a crime. At the Jadeite Zhongnan Phase 3 construction site. Someone here is suspected of blackmail and extortion. A violent brawl has broken out and many people are involved. The situation is spiraling out of control. Please, get here quickly. The sound of sirens drew closer from the distance, piercing through the noise of the construction site. Alternating red and blue lights flashed across everyone's faces, bringing this absurd farce to a sudden, forced halt. Lin Dacheng, who had been wrestling on the ground, and Yang Hemming were frozen in place, as if under a spell. Their movements stiffened as they struggled to scramble up from the dirt. They tried to straighten their disheveled clothes, both of them covered in bruises. They looked utterly pathetic. The developer boss who had been so arrogant just moments ago, and the property manager were now trembling under the authority of the police lights. They stood there like two schoolboys who had been caught misbehaving, heads bowed in silence. Several officers pushed through the crowd. Leading them was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He had a square face and sharp, piercing eyes as he scanned the scene. His gaze swept over the two men who had been fighting and the homeowners holding up their phones. After a few seconds, his eyes finally settled on me. "Were you the one who called the police?" he asked. I nodded. "Yes, officer. This is what happened. Keep it brief." Before I could even start, Lin Dacheng cut in, forcing a smile that looked more painful than crying. "Officer, it is all a misunderstanding. Really, just a misunderstanding." He hurried toward the officer, reaching into his pocket for a business card and a cigarette. But his hands were shaking so badly that he could not get them out. "Our company just had a small dispute with the homeowners. There was a bit of a communication breakdown. Things just got a little heated. It is no big deal. We can settle this privately," he said, trying to downplay the severity. He was attempting to turn a public scandal involving coercion and extortion into a simple internal dispute that could be hushed up. The middle-aged officer glanced at him, but did not respond. Instead, he kept his eyes on me, signaling for me to continue. I knew this was the critical moment that would decide the outcome of everything. I could not afford to get emotional like them, nor could I exaggerate the facts. I just needed to state the truth. "Officer, here is how it happened." I recounted the entire ordeal, using the most objective, emotionless language possible. I did not utter a single word of blame, but every sentence was a devastating blow to Lin Dacheng and Yang Hemming. The officer fell silent after listening. His sharp gaze shifted back and forth between the two men. As an experienced veteran, he understood the situation instantly. This was no longer a simple civil dispute, based on a completely fabricated premise. They had attempted to extort a massive sum of money while committing multiple legal violations. This was already attempted extortion and blackmail. Furthermore, with hundreds of homeowners enraged over the unfinished building issues, this had the potential to become a major public incident. He realized this could not be settled privately. "All right, I have got the gist of it." The officer's expression turned stern. "You there, Xie Lin, Lin Dacheng, and Yang Hemming. You are all coming down to the station to give a detailed statement." He then turned to the other officers and said, "Bring those car owners along as well. As for those involved, the rest of you, please disperse. Do not gather here." Lin Dacheng's face completely lost its color. He knew that going to the police station would change the nature of everything. "Officer, just go when you're told. Enough with the nonsense." The middle-aged officer glared at him, his tone leaving no room for argument. Under everyone's watch, Lin Dacheng forced himself to swallow the rest of his words. I was the complainant, and Lin Dacheng and Yang Hemming were the suspects. Along with those 5 car owners with pissed-off looks on their faces, we were all escorted from the scene by the police. I knew I had won the first round of this battle, and it was a complete victory. But this was just the beginning. What came next would be even more complex. A battle of law and public opinion. By the time I came out of the local police station, the sky was already pitch black. The night wind blew against my face, carrying a hint of chill, but for me, whose head had been muddled all afternoon, it cleared my mind quite a bit. I had given a statement for nearly 3 hours, recounting everything I had experienced from beginning to end. Lin Dacheng and Yang Hemming were interrogated separately. I don't know what they said, but from the bits of information the case officer occasionally let slip, those two have completely turned on each other, shifting blame and describing the other as the mastermind. As for how this will ultimately be classified, whether as a civil matter or a criminal one, that will depend on the results of the police investigation. At least for the near future. They won't be having an easy time. I returned home, and as soon as I opened the door, I was hit by a barrage of notifications from my phone. I was drowned in a flood of message alerts. Hundreds of people in the homeowners group were frantically tagging me. My unread messages were over 999. The group chat was filled with all sorts of praise, flattery, and questions. I, Xie Lin, just an ordinary owner of a unit in an unfinished building, had unexpectedly become a hero and the person to rely on in the eyes of hundreds of families today. Besides WeChat, I also had a dozen or so missed calls. Most were from unknown numbers. I randomly called one of them back. It connected quickly. "Hello? Hello, is this Mr. Xie Lin?" A clear female voice came through. "I'm a reporter from the Zhongcheng City Express. We saw the video of what happened today at the Jadeite Jongnan construction site. We'd like to conduct an exclusive interview with you. Is now a convenient time? Reporter? I froze for a moment. It seemed the videos filmed by the other homeowners on the roof had already started going viral online. Things were spreading much faster than I had imagined. I politely declined the reporter's interview request, telling her that it wasn't a convenient time to be interviewed. After hanging up, I was lost in thought. My initial goal was simple, just to prove my own innocence and not be extorted for that 400,000. But now, the way things were developing had gone far beyond my control. I've been thrust into the spotlight, becoming a symbolic figure in the fight against the unscrupulous developer. This is both an opportunity and a huge risk. A man like Lin Da-chang has been operating in Zhongcheng for years, his connections and influence are deep and tangled. Although he was publicly humiliated today, there's no way he'll just let this go. Once he recovers, he will surely launch a frenzied counterattack and seek revenge against me. I can't keep fighting him on my own, I won't last to the end. Looking at all those hopeful messages in the group chat, I suddenly realized what I had to do. I can't do this solo anymore. I need to take the collective power of these hundreds of owners and truly unite them. I need to turn this individual struggle into a massive collective fight. That's the only way we'll ever have the leverage to go toe-to-toe with Lin Da-chang. And it's the only way there's any hope of actually fixing the root problem of this stalled construction. Speaking of which, everything finally clicked. I opened my laptop and started digging into legal codes and similar cases where owners actually won. Just exposing one lie isn't enough. I have to build an airtight case. A case strong enough to cripple Lin Da-chang, making him answer for his arrogance and his lies. I'm going to make him pay a heavy price. I don't just want a simple apology or some measly settlement. I want every single one of us to get the homes that belong to us, along with the justice that's long overdue. I scrolled through my contacts until I found a name I hadn't called in years. He was a college classmate of mine who joined the top law firm in Zhongcheng right after graduation. He's a senior lawyer now. It's high time I let a professional handle this. I took a deep breath and hit the call button. Hey, old friend, it's Xie Lin. I've got a massive case for you. You interested? Right when the call connected, I heard that familiar, slightly teasing voice. Well, look who it is. Big Boss Xie, did the sun rise in the west today? I can't believe you actually remembered to call a lowly worker like me. That was Wang Feng. He was my bunkmate back in college. He was also the biggest overachiever in our law school class. Naturally, after graduation, he landed a spot at the most prestigious firm in the city. With his talent and insane work ethic, he became one of the youngest partners there in just a few short years. I wasn't in the mood for jokes, so I got straight to the point. Lao Wang, things have gone sideways. I need your help. Wang Feng's tone shifted instantly. He sounded dead serious. What happened? Take it easy and tell me everything. I spent about 10 minutes recounting everything from Yang Hemming's phone call to the moment the police dragged me to the station. I told him every single detail. On the other end, Wang Feng was dead silent. He just listened. He didn't say a word for several seconds after I finished. Then, he let out a sharp, suppressed laugh. Lao Xie, you don't have a problem. You've hit the jackpot. I was completely taken aback. What are you talking about? I just had someone pointing a finger at my face, accusing me of extortion. And you're saying I hit the jackpot? You don't understand. Wang Feng's voice was full of professional adrenaline. A standard case of construction fraud. Might involve a lot of money, but the litigation is a nightmare that drags on forever. Developers have endless ways to stall you for 3 or even 5 years. Most owners just give up because they can't afford the wait. But your situation is different. He paused for a second, clearly choosing his words carefully. Your case has a perfect opening, something that could blow up in the media overnight. An angle that leaves the developer with absolutely no defense, legally or morally. It's this non-existent window, Wang Feng. Cut straight to the core. The developer's stupidity and arrogance have handed you a gift from heaven. Property management colludes with developer, uses a non-existent window to extort 400,000 from a homeowner. Is that headline explosive enough? Any social media influencer wouldn't let a story like this go. What do you call this? It's an opportunity you can't afford to miss. I have to admire his professional acuity. I was still thinking about how to deal with Lin Da-chang's retaliation, but he had already seen the bigger picture. The immense potential value that could be leveraged. So, what you mean is? I asked. What I mean is simple. Wang Feng's voice became firm and clear. We can't just focus on you being extorted. We need to fan the flames. Aim them directly at the root problem, these unfinished buildings. What we need to do is not just clear your name, but let all the Phase 3 homeowners in filing a class action lawsuit against the developer. This incident of yours is our rallying cry. Post an announcement in the homeowners group immediately. Call on all the homeowners to unite and form a homeowners association. To act as one. Right now, you are there. Hero, your words carry more weight than anyone else's. Second, organize a general meeting for all homeowners as soon as possible. Have every owner willing to join the class action suit. Sign a power of attorney right there. Collect their purchase agreements, proof of payment. Gather all of this evidence. This is the ammunition for our lawsuit. Third, and most importantly, compile all the related videos, audio recordings, and photos from today. Also, give me a copy of the written statement you made. I'll have my team work through the night to draft the most rigorous and piercing legal notice and statement of claim. At the same time, I'll help you contact a few influential media outlets. We need to go on the offensive. We need to seize control of the public narrative and hold it firmly in our hands. People like Lin Da-chang are terrified of the light. So, we'll drag everything out into the open. Give him nowhere to hide. Wang Feng's words were logical and clear. Building step by step, they instantly cleared the chaos in my mind. He was right. The strength of one person is limited. Only by uniting everyone who has been wronged and forming a collective force can we truly shake Lin Da-chang, this seemingly unshakable tree. Okay, I replied in a heavy voice. We'll do it your way. What about the legal fees? Don't even mention money, Wang Feng said with a dismissive laugh. If we win this case, the reputation and influence will be worth more than millions in legal fees. You just put your mind at ease. Focus all your energy on what you need to do. Leave the legal matters to me. After I hung up, a long-forgotten fire surged in my chest. I looked at my phone, at the homeowners group chat that was still flashing wildly with notifications. I knew a real, tough fight was about to begin. I didn't hesitate any longer. I found that familiar WeChat group, took a deep breath, and began typing an announcement that would decide everyone's fate. To all my neighbors in Jade River Gardens, Phase 3. This is Xie Lin. Thank you all for your support today. But simply exposing one lie is not enough. Our goal is to get back the homes that belong to us. I have consulted with a professional lawyer and have decided to file a class action lawsuit against the developer. The legal weapons are ready. Now, we need the strength of every single one of us. I suggest this Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, at the community center next to our neighborhood. We'll hold our first general meeting for all owners to elect a homeowners committee and sign the legal documents. This isn't just for me. It's for all of us. If you're willing to fight, please come. My announcement was like a flare, instantly illuminating the silent night sky. After a brief silence in the owners group, a burst of responses erupted, more passionate than ever before. One after another, the list of registrations and support quickly flooded the screen. 2 years of pent-up resentment and disappointment found the most concrete and clearest outlet at this very moment. People weren't just complaining and cursing anymore, they started discussing how to take action and how they could contribute their own strength to the upcoming struggle. Seeing all this, the very last bit of doubt in my heart vanished. Once the power of the people is awakened and organized, it becomes invincible. Meanwhile, in a top-tier private club in Zhongcheng, the atmosphere was as heavy as an ice cellar. Lin Da-chang sat with a grim face on an expensive rosewood sofa. The bloody scratches on his face from Yang Hemming were still clearly visible, with a piece of gauze plastered over his forehead. It made him look both ridiculous and hideous. He had just come out of the station. He'd pulled a lot of strings just to barely manage to get out on bail. But he knew all too well that this was only temporary. Today's mess was too big, with hundreds of people watching. Videos were all over the internet. The authorities weren't going to let him off the hook easily. President Lin, the online public opinion is currently very unfavorable for us. A man in an Armani suit and gold-rimmed glasses sat opposite him. His expression was grave. He was Lin Da-chang's legal advisor. Surnamed Qian, he's a famous fixer in Zhongcheng who specializes in handling shady messes for the rich. That kid named Xie Lin, and the videos taken by the owners who were there today have already made the headlines on several local news apps. The titles are nasty. Developer fabricates window shop charges, demands 400,000 from unfinished building owners. There's even worse stuff calling us gangsters. Lawyer Qian swiped through his tablet, his face turning uglier by the second. Lin Da-chang suddenly grabbed the crystal ashtray off the table and hurled it at the marble wall opposite. The ashtray shattered into pieces. With a thunderous crash, some nobody from who knows where dares to crap all over me. Lin Da-chang's chest heaved violently. The malice in his eyes was almost overflowing. He dominated the business world for over a decade, seen all kinds of people, dealt with all kinds of tough guys. But he never thought that today, because of some green-as-grass kid, he would take such a massive fall. Old Qian, I don't care what it takes. He pointed at Lawyer Qian's nose and said every word with venom, I want him gone. Gone from Zhongcheng, gone from this world, permanently. Lawyer Qian adjusted his glasses. Cold, calculated glint flashing behind the lenses. President Lin, we live in a society of law now. Using extreme measures like that is too risky, especially while we're the center of attention. If anything happens to him, you'll be the very first suspect. Then what are you saying? I just watch him prance around outside? If that mob of homeowners organizes and sues me, and they really manage to file a class action lawsuit, the company will be dragged down by them. Lin Da-chang roared. So, we can't let him organize them. Lawyer Qian's tone was cold and steady. The best way to deal with this kind of mass incident has never been to meet it head-on. Instead, we break them down from the inside. He held up 3 fingers. First, create division. Those few hundred homeowners can't possibly be a solid block. Some are desperate for money, others are timid and afraid of trouble. We'll immediately send people to approach them, offer them some benefits in private. Have them sign a confidentiality agreement, and get them to withdraw. As long as one person quits, there will be a second and a third. Once their morale is scattered, the group will be hard to lead. Second, smear him. That guy with the surname Xie. Aren't they treating him like a hero now? We'll pull him down from his pedestal. Investigate his background, his family, his job, his past. I refuse to believe he's a saint with absolutely no dirt to be found. As long as we find one stain, we'll pay for an online smear campaign to spread it everywhere. We'll frame him as an opportunist who incites the masses for his own personal gain. Once a hero is tainted, he becomes even more repulsive than an ordinary person. Third, apply pressure. Let the law handle the legal side. I will assemble the strongest legal team to fight him in court. You will be responsible for using your connections in the government. Give a heads up to the relevant departments. It's just a simple class action lawsuit. As long as we drag it out, delay the trial, and get bogged down in red tape, over time, the fighting spirit of those homeowners will naturally wear away. Lawyer Qian's words were clear and logical, and incredibly vicious, slowly calming Lin Dacheng's furious mood. He sat back down on the sofa, a familiar, cruel, cold smile appearing on his face. Excellent, excellent. Old Qian, you're still the one with the brains. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. Black Dog? It's me. I need you to investigate someone for me. His name is Xie Lin, he lives at. Right, dig up everything about him, from his childhood until now. I want you to turn his life inside out. Also, do one more thing for me. The list of homeowners for Jade River South, Phase 3. I'll send it to you in a bit. Find a few sharp guys and have them pay each of them a visit. Tell them what happens when they cross me, Lin Dacheng. Hanging up the phone, Lin Dacheng picked up the red wine on the table and downed it in one go. He looked out the window at the brilliant lights of the city, the panic in his eyes now gone. In its place was a sinister, wolfish look, like a venomous snake. Kid, the game is just beginning. The homeowners meeting on Saturday was even more successful than I had imagined. The community center was completely packed with people. The aisles and doorways were full. At a rough estimate, no fewer than 300 households showed up. Wang Feng also came in person with his 2 assistants to provide the homeowners with free legal consultation. And answered all sorts of professional questions about the stalled construction project on the spot. The atmosphere of the meeting was extremely enthusiastic. Under my leadership, we successfully passed the charter and, with an overwhelming majority of votes, elected a 7-person homeowners committee. I was, without a doubt, elected as the chairman. With the help of Wang Feng's team, we collected more than 260 power of attorney forms signed by the homeowners themselves, along with a mountain of purchase contracts. Looking at the bank statements and that thick stack of authorization letters, my heart was a whirlwind of emotions. These weren't just legal documents. They were the heavy weight of trust and hope from over 200 families. But Lin Dacheng's counterattack came even faster and more sinister than I'd ever imagined. Monday morning, I got a call from one of the owners. His name was Chen Wenxing. He was a teacher in his 50s and a member of the homeowners committee. On the other end of the line, old Chen's voice was trembling, filled with terror and a hint of tears. Xie Lin, it's bad, something's happened. Brother Chen, take a breath. Tell me slowly, what happened? My heart sank. I knew immediately that something was wrong. This morning, I went downstairs to drive to work, and found all 4 of my tires slashed to pieces, and there was red paint all over the windows, with the words, die, sprayed across them. Old Chen's voice was shaking uncontrollably. My wife was so scared her legs gave out right there. Xie Lin, they are coming for us. Is this a warning? My fists clenched instantly. That bastard Lin Dacheng. He didn't dare lay a finger on me, so he went after these innocent owners instead. He knew exactly how much of a psychological blow such a dirty move would have on an ordinary family. Brother Chen, don't be afraid. And don't touch the car. Keep the scene exactly as it is. I'm calling the police right now, and then I'm coming straight to you. I comforted old Chen while quickly dialing Wang Feng's number. I filled him in on the situation. Wang Feng let out a cold sneer over the phone. Perfect timing. I was worried he'd stay hidden like a coward. The more he pulls stunts like this, the faster he's digging his own grave. You keep that owner calm. Tell him this isn't a bad thing. In fact, it's the best weapon for our counterattack. Make sure all the evidence is preserved. I'll have the authorities open an investigation immediately. This is blatant intimidation and intentional destruction of property. It's enough to make him rot in there. Wang Feng's calm professionalism gave me a huge boost of confidence. I rushed to old Chen's neighborhood. The police had already set up a cordoned-off area. Old Chen and his wife stood to the side, their faces deathly pale. A crowd of neighbors had gathered around the police line, whispering and buzzing with anxiety. I walked over and squeezed old Chen's shoulder, saying in a low, firm voice, Brother Chen, don't be scared. Them doing this only proves one thing. They're terrified. They're terrified of us standing together. They're terrified of us using the law as our weapon. This isn't a warning. This is the desperate act of a cornered animal. I raised my voice so all the neighbors nearby could hear me. Everyone, neighbors, do you see this? This is how the developer operates. They don't dare face us in a courtroom. They don't dare settle this in the light of day. They can only resort to these filthy, low-life tactics to try and scare us. The crowd's emotions were ignited once again. Lin Da-Chang's attempt at intimidation didn't break our spirit. Instead, it sparked a fierce, shared outrage in everyone's hearts. Seeing this, I finally felt at ease. I stepped to the side and dialed a number I'd saved but never heard back from. It was the reporter from the Zhongcheng City News. Hello? Hello? Is this the reporter from the Zhongcheng Metropolitan News? Hello? Is this reporter Chen? This is Xie Lin. Mr. Xie. Hello, hello. I've been waiting for your call. The girl on the other end sounded incredibly excited. I've decided to accept your interview. I said calmly, but it won't be an exclusive interview just for me. I want your help in organizing a full-scale press conference. Our Emerald Zhongnan Homeowners' Rights Committee has some critical evidence to release to the public. Evidence? What kind of evidence? Reporter Chen followed up sharply. Evidence of how the developer fabricated lies to commit character assassination, a complete chain of evidence. Also, how they used underworld tactics to threaten and intimidate homeowners, and the latest proof regarding what's really happening behind the unfinished Emerald Zhongnan project, potentially even more serious illegal violations. With every word I spoke, I could hear her gasping and the sound of rapid typing on the other end of the line. Mr. Xie, don't you worry. This is definitely the front page headline of the year. The press conference. Our agency will help you organize everything. We'll invite all of Zhongcheng. No, every influential media outlet in the entire province. Reporter Chen promised excitedly. The time is set for 10 a.m. the day after tomorrow. We'll find a conference hall large enough for the crowd. Good, it's a deal. Hanging up the phone, I looked at the vandalized car and those two bright red, glaring characters, die. Lin Da-Chang, you want to play games? Fine, then I'll play a big one with you. I'm going to expose all your conspiracies and filth to the entire city. Even under the spotlight of the whole nation. I want to see where a sewer-dwelling venomous snake like you can hide. Once the sunlight hits every dark corner. At the scene of the press conference, the camera flashes were as bright as daylight. Microphones, like a battery of artillery, stretched toward the podium from all directions, resembling a dense, suffocating forest of metal. Almost every notable media outlet in Zhongcheng had arrived. TV news cameras formed a high wall of lenses in the back row. Reporters in the front were writing furiously or holding up their phones to livestream the event. I sat in the center of the podium. Beside me was Wang Feng, dressed in a sharp, professional suit, looking exceptionally capable. Other members of the homeowners committee, including Chen Wenqing, whose face was still a bit pale, sat behind us to the side. As the representatives of all the homeowners, we faced nearly 100 pairs of searching, excited eyes. They were sharks with the keenest sense of smell, and today, they smelled blood. I cleared my throat, faced the microphone, and began to speak in a tone so calm it was almost chilling. Friends from the media, good morning, everyone. I am Xie Lin, a homeowner from Unit 1201, Building 12, Phase 3 of Emerald Zhongnan. The room went silent instantly, leaving only the rapid click-click-click of camera shutters. The reason I invited you all here today is to clarify one matter and reveal certain facts to the public. I pressed the spacebar on the laptop in front of me. On the massive screen behind me, a high-definition photo appeared immediately. It was a skeletal, lonely, unfinished building. The focus of the photo was on the 11th floor, the staircase to nowhere that ended abruptly. A few days ago, I received a call from Manager Yang of Emerald Riverside Property Management. He claimed that from my unit, 1201, a window had fallen out and damaged 5 cars downstairs. He demanded 400,000 yuan in compensation from me. As soon as I finished speaking, a wave of uncontrollable gasps and whispers rippled through the crowd of reporters. Although many had already seen the related videos online, hearing it directly from the person involved made the absurdity and impact feel incredibly powerful. The photo you see now was taken after the incident, when I, the developer Mr. Lin Da-Chang, Manager Yang, and hundreds of homeowners went to the site to inspect it. The truth is, the 12th floor where my unit is supposed to be was never even built. I pressed the spacebar again, and a video started playing on the screen. It was the moment of the rooftop confrontation. Lin Da-Chang was pointing at empty air in a rage, asking me why I was misleading people. Followed by the classic clip of me calmly asking him back where my window was. Though the video was a bit shaky, the dialogue was crystal clear. Lin Da-Chang's empty bluster versus my calm questioning, combined with the thunderous laughter from the surrounding owners, created a highly dramatic contrast. The reporter's eyes lit up. This was the most direct and explosive news material possible. A floor that doesn't even exist, yet they want me to pay 400,000 yuan. I turned off the video and scanned the room. I'd like to ask everyone here, what kind of behavior is this? I didn't label it directly, instead, I threw the question to everyone else. But the answer was already self-evident. Before the reporters could even ask a question, I continued, however, the story is far from over. When we, the homeowners, decided to unite and use legal weapons to protect our legitimate rights, what we received wasn't an apology or a solution from the developer, but even more despicable threats and violence. I switched the slide again, and a set of shocking photos appeared on the big screen. A white sedan with 4 tires completely slashed and flattened. On the window glass, in glaring red paint, were 2 hideous words, "Death Wish." This man is a member of our homeowners committee. Mr. Chen Wenqing. I pointed to old Chen beside me. At my signal, old Chen stood up and nodded solemnly toward the camera. Just the day before yesterday, as Mr. Chen was preparing for work, he found his car like this. This is how the developer responds to us homeowners. They're too cowardly to face our demands directly, so they use these shady tactics to try and scare us. The crowd erupted in an uproar. If the window incident had a hint of dark humor and absurdity, then this blatant intimidation made everyone's blood boil with anger. This is no longer a simple business dispute. This is a direct provocation. I gave Wang Feng a look. Wang Feng understood, and picked up the microphone in front of him. Hello, everyone. I am Wang Feng, the legal counsel for Mr. Xie Lin and the Emerald Riverside Homeowners Committee. As soon as he spoke, he projected the aura of a top-tier lawyer. Based on these facts, we believe the actions of the developer and related property management personnel are no longer just a matter of civil infringement. For the purpose of illegal possession, they used fabricated facts to threaten the homeowners. Demanding huge sums of money already constitutes suspected attempted extortion. Subsequently, their acts of intimidation, like spray painting and slashing the tires of the homeowners committee members, are already suspected of constituting the crime of provoking trouble and the crime of intentional destruction of property. Every crime Wang Feng named was like a heavy hammer, striking hard at everyone's heart. At this time, we formally announced to all of society, we, on behalf of over 260 homeowners of Emerald Zhongnan Phase 3, have formally submitted a class action lawsuit application to the Zhongcheng City People's Court, demanding that the developer immediately cease the infringement and compensate for the losses, and fulfill the contract as soon as possible to complete the subsequent construction of the building. At the same time, we have also compiled the relevant criminal leads into a complete file and submitted it to the Public Security Bureau and the Procuratorate. We believe the law will give us a just verdict. Wang Feng's words were powerful and resonant. His logic was tight, instantly elevating the nature of the entire incident from a piece of social news to a serious legal matter. Finally, the microphone was returned to my hand. I stood up, faced all the cameras below the stage, and bowed deeply. Friends from the media, we are standing up today not just for ourselves, but for all the ordinary families like us who have emptied 3 generations of savings in exchange for an unfinished apartment building. What we want is not compensation, not pity. What we want is justice. It's the dignity of the law, and it's what we were supposed to have. A home that can shelter us from the wind and rain. Thank you, everyone. After speaking, I straightened up. The room was silent for 3 seconds. Then, as if a powder keg had been ignited, countless hands shot up high, and a tide of countless questions rushed in. The press conference had reached its climax. And I knew, at that moment, the true call to battle had finally been sounded. Lin Dacheng was in the lounge of his private golf course when he saw the live broadcast of this press conference. On the huge LCD screen was the image of Wang Feng and me speaking passionately on stage. And the photo of the car with slashed tires and, courting death, spray painted in red appeared on the big screen. Lin Dacheng shot to his feet. The face of lawyer Qian beside him also instantly turned incredibly ugly. Damn it, I told them to create division, to apply pressure. Who told them to do this kind of stupid thing that leaves behind evidence? Lin Dacheng was trembling with anger. He grabbed an expensive cigar from beside him, slammed it hard on the floor, and crushed it to pieces with his expensive custom-made leather shoes. He never expected that just after he had made his move, the other side's counterattack would be so swift, so fatal. This was no longer a simple counterattack. This was a meticulously planned trial by public opinion. That kid surnamed Xie and his lawyer had laid everything out on the table, right under the noses of the entire city's people. Not only were they not frightened, but they actually used this intimidation incident to portray themselves as tragic victims, seizing all the moral high ground. Mr. Lin, now is not the time to be angry. Lawyer Qian forced himself to calm down, his brain racing. The most urgent matter at hand. Sever all our ties to this mess immediately. Get the guys who did the job out of the city right now. We can't let the cops trace this back to us. You think I don't know that? Lin Dacheng roared into the phone at the subordinate who handled all his dirty work. He barked out the orders and slammed the phone down. He was like a caged beast, pacing back and forth across the room in a frantic state. On the screen, the Q&A session had begun. Every sharp question felt like a jagged blade, stabbing directly into his chest. Mr. Xie, aren't you worried about retaliation from Lin Dacheng? On the screen, Xie Lin just gave a calm, composed smile in response to the question. If the citizens of a society, simply for defending their legal rights, have to live in fear of retaliation, then that is what we should truly all be worried about. I have faith in the law. What terrified Lin even more was that less than 30 minutes after the press conference ended, his phone started ringing off the hook. The first call was from a bank official. This was someone who used to be completely submissive to him. Hello, Mr. Lin, where are you right now? Have you seen the news? Yikes, things have really spiraled out of control. Look, the main branch just issued a notice. They need to re-evaluate your company's credit risk. Regarding your development loan for the next quarter, we might have to put that on hold. The second call came from a city construction official. Da Chang, what the hell happened? How did you let such a small thing get leaked to the media? Now everyone knows about those issues with your Phase 3 project. An investigation team is getting ready to move in. You're on your own now. Good luck. Then came the third, fourth, and fifth calls, partners, suppliers, and more. Each call was like a bucket of ice water being poured over him, chilling him to the very core. Everyone was treating him like the plague, desperate to distance themselves as fast as possible. The business he'd spent over 10 years building was now facing the crushing weight of public outrage. And it was as fragile as a sheet of paper. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. No, the tree hadn't even fallen yet, and those monkeys were already looking for a new branch to climb. Lawyer Qian looked at the shell-shocked Lin Dacheng and knew that the situation had turned catastrophic. The three-step strategy he'd originally planned, divide, smear, and pressure. The first step, divide, had triggered a massive backlash from the other side. The third step, pressure, was now completely useless due to outside forces intervening. Now, they only had one card left, the smear campaign. Mr. Lin, the lawyer walked over to Lin Dacheng and lowered his voice to a whisper. At this point, we have to take a huge risk. Conventional methods won't work anymore. We have to destroy his reputation. As long as his public image crumbles, then every word he says and everything he does will be questioned. Lin Dacheng looked like a drowning man clutching at a final straw. A glimmer of hope flickered in his bloodshot eyes. Is there any news from that side? Did you find anything? We found something. A sinister look flashed in Lawyer Qian's eyes. That man, Xie Lin, was fired from his previous company 3 years ago. The reason given was embezzlement. Embezzlement? Lin Dacheng's eyes instantly lit up. Is it true? Do we have proof? They didn't report it to the police back then. The company handled it internally. Word is he transferred $50,000 of company funds into his own personal account. The company's finance department found out. Later, he returned the money. That's why the company didn't pursue criminal charges against him and just fired him. Lawyer Qian said, although he doesn't have a criminal record. This incident is more than enough for us to work with. Good, this is perfect. Lin Dacheng rubbed his hands excitedly. A man with a history of embezzling company funds now steps up to be a leader, claiming he's fighting for the people. Who's going to believe him? He's just a fraud trying to use this to get famous and make a quick buck. He could almost see it now. The scene of Xie Lin being cursed by thousands. Old Qian, get on this immediately. Spend whatever it takes, find the best online trolls on the entire internet, and get this news spread to every single corner. I want to turn him from a hero into a pariah. Lawyer Qian nodded, a calculating glint in his eyes. Don't worry, President Lin. The internet is a battlefield with very deep waters. An ordinary person trying to fight the power of capital? He's still too green for that. He took out his phone and began making contact with that gray empire hidden in the shadows of the internet. He knew this was their last chance. If they failed again this time, then what awaited Lin Dacheng and him would be an abyss of eternal damnation. The smear campaign, on the second night after the press conference ended, began without a sound. The first place something strange appeared was on Zhangcheng's largest local online forum. A post titled, Shocking Reversal. The unfinished building, rights hero Xie Lin was once fired for embezzling company funds, was published by a newly registered ID. The content of the post was written very convincingly. It described in detail how 3 years ago, Xie Lin, while working at a company called Honda Technology, used his position to transfer a sum of 50,000 yuan in company funds to his personal account, only to be discovered by the company. The inside story was that he was forced to return the stolen funds and was fired. The post also attached a so-called screenshot from an internal memo. Although the key information was pixelated, the format and tone made it look quite credible. As soon as this post was published, it was immediately flooded with upvotes and replies, pushing it to the most prominent spot on the forum's homepage. Holy crap, is this for real? This plot twist is way too fast. I knew it. There's no such thing as a perfect person. Turns out his hands weren't clean after all. This is terrifying when you think about it. A guy who embezzled company funds before is now leading hundreds of homeowners in a lawsuit. What do you guys think his real motive is? You don't think he's trying to extort a huge hush money payment from the developers and keep it all for himself, do you? The post above makes a good point. Man, his public image collapsed so fast. As a bystander, I'm totally lost. In the comments sections of news apps, countless accounts that looked like ordinary netizens frantically spread the story, using nearly identical wording, repeatedly emphasizing embezzlement of company funds, questionable character, and impure motives. A meticulously planned storm of public opinion was attempting to drag me from the pedestal of a rights-defending hero down into the mud. Wang Feng informed me of the situation immediately. His voice on the phone was as calm as ever. "Old Xie, don't panic. This was to be expected. The other side is starting to show their hand. Embezzling company funds." When I heard that accusation, I was stunned for a moment, then I let out a frustrated laugh. Man, they really can spin a yarn. That incident 3 years ago had absolutely nothing to do with embezzling funds. What exactly happened? Wang Feng pressed for details. I gave him a quick rundown. 3 years ago, I was working in sales for that company. I had just closed a deal with a client who was in a desperate rush for the goods. But the company's accounting process was moving at a snail's pace. To make sure the shipment wasn't delayed, I used my own money to cover the cost for the company up front. Then I had the client transfer the payment directly to my card. I made sure to report the whole thing to my direct supervisor beforehand. I even kept all the chat logs and transfer receipts. Later on, a new CFO joined the company. To throw his weight around and purge the old staff, he dug up my case. He insisted it was a violation and accused me of misappropriating company funds. Even though I produced every bit of evidence to prove my innocence. That new guy was determined to make his mark, and he kept insisting I'd broken the rules. In the end, the company fired me, citing a serious violation of financial policy. I was young and hot-headed back then, so I didn't bother fighting them. I just took my severance pay and walked away. I never imagined this old piece of history would be dug up by Lin Dacheng and his cronies and twisted into this mess. Wang Feng stayed silent for a few seconds after listening, then he smirked. "Old Xie, this isn't dirt, it's actually a massive gift." "What do you mean?" I asked, confused. "Think about it. They went through all the trouble of digging into your life from childhood until now. And all they could come up with to attack you was this twisted, dusty old story? What does that tell you?" Wang Feng challenged me. It clicked instantly. It meant I was so clean that it was making them desperate. Exactly, Wang Feng laughed. They can't find a single real stain on your character. So they have to rely on lies. And lies? They're the easiest things to burst. Don't do anything for now. Don't respond to this in public at all. Let them put on their little show. Let them hype it up as much as they want. Why? Because the higher they build it up, the harder they'll come crashing down. Once they've got everyone hooked, and the idea that Xie Lin is a bad guy has reached a boiling point, that's when we drop the full chain of evidence. We hit them with everything at once. The public backlash at that point will be more brutal than anything they've faced. Lin Dacheng is literally putting his neck on the line to make you look good. I couldn't help but admire Wang Feng's brilliance. He always managed to find the ultimate advantage in the most dangerous situations. Meanwhile, the homeowners group chat was blowing up. Those online rumors had inevitably leaked into the group. I watched the messages flying back and forth, knowing I had to say something to keep everyone from panicking. I didn't write a long, drawn-out explanation. I didn't lash out in anger either. I just posted a very brief message. "Neighbors, thank you for your concern. Regarding the rumors online, I only have one thing to say. The truth will always come to light. Our real enemy is the crooked developer, not me. As for my past, please don't let these cheap tricks distract you. Our goal remains the same as it has always been. And that is to get our homes back. Tomorrow morning, Attorney Wang Feng will release a formal legal statement on our behalf. To address all the doubts. Please, everyone, trust in the law. Trust the facts." My words were like a reassurance pill, slowly calming down the restless homeowners group. The vast majority of them chose to trust me. To trust the person who led them in exposing the lies. As for me, I was following Wang Feng's instructions, gathering all the evidence I had kept from 3 years ago. Screenshots of the chat logs with my superior, proof of my advance payments. Bank statements showing client payments made to me, and the termination notice the company gave me back then. I compiled everything, bundled it up, and sent it to his email. Lin Dacheng, Attorney Qian, you want to wage a media war, is that it? Fine, then I'll show you what it means to dig your own grave. The storm online was far more intense than Attorney Qian had anticipated. The dirt on Xie Lin embezzling public funds, pushed by an army of paid posters, did indeed dominate the trending lists on all major platforms in a short amount of time. But this kind of popularity, manufactured by money, had a weak foundation. It was filled with signs of artificial manipulation. Too many netizens were using similar phrasing to post identical comments in different places. This kind of coordinated action quickly aroused the suspicion and disgust of actual netizens. What's going on? I wake up and suddenly everywhere people are saying Xie Lin has a character problem. This is too much of a coincidence. Let me check the profiles of a few of the most aggressive accounts. They're all either registered today or are zombie accounts that have never posted before. The signs of a paid smear campaign are so obvious. Does the developer think we're fools? I'm starting to believe Xie Lin. If there was really so much dirt on him, why did it only come out right after his press conference, when the developer was on the back foot? That's not a diversion tactic, that's just a desperate last resort. Far from turning against me, public opinion quickly split into two camps. One side consisted of the paid posters and the bandwagoners they'd roped in, while the other was made up of organic supporters who remained rational and skeptical. The two factions argued endlessly online, pushing the hype surrounding the incident to an unprecedented peak. Everyone was waiting for a final verdict. Waiting for Xie Lin himself, or his lawyer, to come forward with a response. Lin Da-cheng and attorney Qian were clearly very pleased with this outcome. In their eyes, once the seed of doubt was planted, it would eventually sprout. As long as the idea that Xie Lin had a character problem was mentioned repeatedly, it was bound to shake the homeowners' resolve. They didn't need everyone to believe it, just a portion. Their goal would be achieved. And indeed, a rift began to form in the homeowners group. The first to waver were those who had bought their properties purely as an investment. People for whom the stalled construction wasn't a life-altering disaster. A homeowner, whose profile picture showed them on vacation in Hawaii, posted a long message in the group. Everyone, I feel like maybe we've been too impulsive. None of us knew this Xie Lin guy before. What kind of person is he, really? None of us can really say. And now, with all this stuff online, there's no smoke without fire. What if he really made some private deal with the developer and sold us all out? Who would we turn to then? His words immediately found support from a few others. Yeah, a class action lawsuit sounds nice, but what if we lose in the end? We don't have a single shred of leverage left to negotiate with the developer. We have nothing. I heard some people have already received calls from their side. They're saying they're willing to refund the full price plus a little bit of interest as compensation. Even though it's a bit of a loss, it's still better than losing every last penny in the end, right? I've decided to back out. The elderly in my family aren't doing well. I just can't handle the stress anymore. Xie Lin, I'm so sorry. After posting that, the homeowner quietly left the group chat. Once the first one left, the second and third soon followed. Within just 1 hour, over 10 households had quit the group. They even contacted Wang Feng's assistant to withdraw their legal authorization. Lin Da-cheng's divide and conquer strategy, combined with his smear campaign, was finally starting to show its teeth. The atmosphere in the group became heavy and suffocating, even though the remaining owners were still trying to cheer each other on. Anyone could feel that the momentum they'd just built up was being eaten away, bit by bit. Right then, I finally posted that message in the group. The innocent have nothing to fear. My statement acted like a shot of adrenaline, temporarily steadying most people's nerves. Especially Chen Wenqing and the other core members of the committee, who immediately stepped up to support me, calling those who left traitors and cowards. They urged everyone to have faith in me and trust the law. But I knew this verbal support was fragile. If I couldn't produce solid evidence soon to completely crush those rumors, this crack would only grow wider until the entire alliance collapsed. It was late at night, but I couldn't sleep. I stared at the city lights outside, repeatedly going over Wang Feng's plan. He was waiting for the other side to finish their performance, waiting for everyone's curiosity and doubt to reach a breaking point. It was a psychological gamble. A gamble on the public's reason and their hunger for the truth, and a gamble on my own name, Xie Lin. I wondered how much credibility I'd even have left after this storm finally blew over. Over in Lin Da-cheng's office, he and lawyer Qian were raising their wine glasses, celebrating their temporary victory. Old Qian, this move of yours was brilliant, cutting the ground right from under them. Look, over 10 households have already quit. If this keeps up, in less than a week, that so-called homeowners committee will just fall apart on its own. Lin Da-cheng's face was flushed with joy, all his gloom from the past few days completely gone. Lawyer Qian smiled and swirled his wine. Behind his glasses, a glint of smugness flickered in his eyes. President Lin, this is just the beginning. I've already made the arrangements. Tomorrow, a few former colleagues will give interviews in their own names to confirm that Xie Lin embezzled funds back then. When that happens, not even God could save him. Good, good, good. Lin Da-cheng said, good, 3 times, already picturing me ruined and disgraced. Kneeling before him and begging for mercy. He downed his red wine in one gulp, and laughed out loud with pure satisfaction. He had no idea that when a man laughs the loudest in the dark, that's usually when the dawn is closest. At 10 o'clock the next morning, just as those former colleagues hired by Lin Da-cheng were preparing to tell their story in a live stream, Wang Feng's thunderous counterattack struck without warning. The official public account of Zhengcheng Law Firm, Zhangcheng's top law firm, and all of its partner media channels simultaneously published a document titled Official Legal Statement Regarding the Defamation Incident Concerning Mr. Xie Lin. The statement began by directly addressing the recent online rumors about Mr. Xie Lin embezzling public funds, stating they were all severely false and fabricated information created by WY, with the intent to mislead the public. The intention was extremely malicious. Following this, the statement didn't offer any empty rebuttals. Instead, it began to list the evidence directly, carrying out a public takedown. The first piece of evidence, a complete WeChat chat history. The beginning of the long screenshot read, I'm seeking instructions from my former direct supervisor, Manager Wang. Manager Wang, Honda Technology is pushing hard for this order. It has to be shipped today, but there's no time to go through the finance department's procedures. Can I first advance the 50,000 for the cost of goods with my own money, and then have the client transfer the payment directly to me? That would be the fastest way. Below was Manager Wang's reply. Okay, let's handle this special case with special measures. You go ahead and advance the payment. Make sure to keep the receipts. These two simple lines of dialogue instantly changed the nature of the embezzlement into an advance payment that was approved by a superior. The second piece of evidence, 2 screenshots of bank transfer receipts. One was from my personal account, an electronic confirmation of a 50,000 yuan transfer to Honda Technologies company account. The time was that same morning. The other one was an electronic confirmation of a 50,000 yuan transfer from the client company's account to my personal account. The time was that same afternoon. The timestamps on the 2 receipts were very close, and the amounts were identical, corresponding perfectly with the chat log. This formed an irrefutable, closed loop of fund transfers, proving that I did not take the company's money for myself, but that it merely passed through my hands. The third piece of evidence, a screenshot of an internal company email. The sender was me. Recipients were my direct supervisor, Manager Wang, and the company's finance department. The content of the email was my written explanation of the entire process of this advance payment incident, with all relevant receipts attached. This email proved that immediately after the event, I had filed a complete report with the company. My actions were transparent and above board, with nothing to hide. The fourth piece of evidence, a scanned copy of a termination of employment contract notice, stamped with Honda Technologies' official company seal. On the notice, the reason for the termination of the employment contract was written in black and white: serious violation of the company's financial reimbursement policies and fund management regulations. And next to it was a concise but brilliant legal interpretation. Violation of policy and embezzlement of public funds are 2 legal concepts with completely different natures. The former falls under the category of labor discipline, while the latter is suspected to be a criminal offense. Back then, Honda Technology terminated its employment contract with Mr. Xie Lin on the grounds of violating policy. This, ironically, serves as reverse proof that Mr. Xie Lin's actions at the time did not at all constitute so-called embezzlement. These 4 pieces of evidence were interlinked, progressing step by step, like 4 resounding slaps to the face, landing squarely on the faces of all the rumor mongers. They, together, formed a complete and solid chain of evidence, taking the edifice built on lies and slander and shattering it to pieces in an instant. At the end of the statement, it is Juncheng Law Firm's cold declaration of war. A formal notice: all individuals and platforms that publish this false information must delete the content immediately and issue a formal public apology to Mr. Xie Lin to clear his name and eliminate the negative impact. Secondly, this firm, acting on behalf of Mr. Xie Lin, is targeting the online account, Zhongcheng Big Bro, for the initial defamation, along with the Zhongcheng Hotspots Forum for allowing these rumors to spread unchecked. We have filed a lawsuit for reputation infringement in the People's Court, demanding they take full legal responsibility. Thirdly, our firm has secured preliminary evidence proving that this massive, organized smear campaign involves personnel from the Zhongcheng Hongyi Real Estate Company, the developer of the Jade Zhongnan project. They are the ones pulling the strings from the shadows. We have already handed over the relevant leads to the Cybersecurity Bureau of the Public Security Organs, requesting a formal criminal investigation regarding such despicable acts of using cyber violence to seek retaliation and revenge. We will pursue this to the very end and show absolutely no mercy. This statement was like a depth charge dropped into the already boiling sea of public opinion. It triggered a literal nuclear reaction. The 2 factions of netizens who were just arguing fiercely all fell into an eerie silence in that moment. A few minutes later, the comment section completely exploded. A massive reversal of public opinion. Took less than 1 hour. All those voices that were drowning me in accusations vanished without a trace in an instant. They were replaced by a tidal wave of fury against the developers' shameless behavior, as well as sympathy and even more unwavering support for me. My reputation didn't just survive. It was forged in the fire, becoming even more indestructible. The image of a clean, upright hero who sacrificed his own name for the collective good. Someone who, in the face of power and slander, could still use facts and the law to launch a calm counterattack. That perfect hero image was now firmly established. And all of this was thanks to Lin Dacheng and lawyer Qian's supposedly brilliant, yet utterly stupid smear campaign. They personally handed me a crown that no one could ever take away. Lawyer Qian was in the middle of an emergency meeting when he saw the statement from Zhongcheng Law Firm, when he saw that ironclad chain of evidence, and the kind of cold, lethal legal language that he himself was most famous for. His hands shook uncontrollably for the first time. He knew he had lost. In the very professional field he took the most pride in, he was like a self-righteous hunter who had carefully set a trap, only to realize that from beginning to end, he was the one in the crosshairs. The opponent hadn't just seen through his every move, but had used his own trap to pull off a textbook counter kill. The meeting room door was slammed open. Lin Dacheng, like a wounded bull, charged inside. He took his phone and slammed it violently onto the table in front of lawyer Qian. The screen was showing that very statement. Old Qian, is this the bold move you promised? Is this how you ruin him? Lin Dacheng's voice was raspy and wild. His eyes were even more bloodshot than they were a few days ago. It was a kind of madness fueled by a mix of fear, rage, and despair. Now I'm the one who's ruined. Me, Lin Dacheng. He pointed at his own nose, practically roaring. The bank called again. They're demanding early repayment of the loans. The investigation team is moving into the company tomorrow. The head of the bot farm I paid a fortune for just called to tell me all his accounts have been banned. The cyber police are already at his door. It's over. It's all over. Lin Dacheng looked as if all his strength had been sucked out of him, collapsing into his chair in total despair. He held his head in his hands, muttering to himself over and over again. Lawyer Qian's face was deathly pale. He couldn't squeeze out a single word. He knew everything Lin Dacheng said was true. This giant ship he relied on for his very survival was sinking at an unimaginable speed. And he was the very person who had personally hacked a massive hole in the bottom. He wanted to defend himself, wanting to say it was all because of bad intelligence, or that the opponent wasn't playing by the rules. But in the face of the truth, every excuse felt hollow and weak. He had completely underestimated Xie Lin, and he had completely underestimated the lawyer backing him up. The person they were facing wasn't just some reckless amateur. He was a master strategist, just like them, maybe even better. Meanwhile, the homeowners group chat was a sea of celebration. Those who had wavered or even left the group before were all slinking back one by one, desperately spamming the chat with apology emojis. After the baptism of this storm, the group's unity had reached an all-time high. Everyone's trust in me had turned into something close to blind worship. They firmly believed that as long as they followed me, Xie Lin, they would definitely win this lawsuit and get their homes back. I didn't respond to the flattery in the group. Instead, I just sat with Wang Feng, calmly planning our next move. Winning the PR war was just the first step. It had secured the best possible external environment and internal unity for us. But to truly solve the problem, we eventually had to return to the legal track. While I was on the phone with Wang Feng, an unfamiliar landline number called in. I picked up, and a steady, powerful middle-aged male voice came through. Hello, is this Mr. Xie Lin? I am. May I ask who's calling? I am the leader of the Joint Investigation Task Force for the Jade South Project, established by the Zhangcheng Municipal Government. My name is Wang. My heart skipped a beat. The real big player had finally arrived. Hello, Leader Wang. I immediately adjusted my emotions, making my voice sound calm and reliable. Mr. Xie, our investigation team has officially moved into Hongyi Real Estate, and we are launching a full-scale investigation into all issues related to the Jade South project. We've noticed the recent actions of your homeowners committee, as well as the demands and evidence you posted online. Leader Wang's tone was very official, but it carried an undeniable sense of authority. We are taking this matter very seriously. We won't just clear up the financial issues behind these unfinished buildings, we will also strictly deal with any potential criminal activities involved. We want you to act as the head representative for the owners. Please come to our task force's temporary office tomorrow morning. Provide us with all the information and evidence you currently have. We need your full cooperation. No problem, I answered without hesitation. Leader Wang, we've been waiting for this day for way too long. I'll definitely be there on time tomorrow morning. After hanging up, I immediately told Wang Feng the news. On the other end of the line, even Wang Feng let out a rare sigh of emotion. Old Xie, you kid, you've really gone and blown the lid off this thing. He paused, his tone becoming incredibly serious. This is our best chance, and maybe our last. Tomorrow, bring every single piece of material we've prepared, including the leads on Lin Dacheng's ties to organized crime. We aren't just going to help the owners get their houses back. We're going to use this investigation team as a blade to uproot Lin Dacheng, that cancer who has been festering in Zhangcheng for years. I watched the sky outside slowly darken, but my heart had never been this bright. I knew that the war triggered by a non-existent window had finally entered its final showdown. And I would carry the hopes of hundreds of families into the final climax. The Joint Investigation Team's temporary office was located in an inconspicuous small building inside the compound. The atmosphere here was a world away from the bustling streets outside. It was quiet and solemn, even a bit oppressive. Wang Feng and I arrived 15 minutes early. Wang Feng was wearing his signature well-tailored dark suit, carrying a heavy briefcase. Inside were all the materials we had spent the last few days organizing, working through the night. As for me, I wore simple casual clothes, my expression calm. We both knew that today's meeting would decide the final outcome of this entire event. A young staff member led us into a small meeting room. The room wasn't big, with simple furnishings, a long conference table, a few chairs and the national emblem hanging on the wall. Other than that, there was nothing. 3 people were already sitting at the other end of the table. In the center sat a middle-aged man around 50 years old, with a square face and thick eyebrows. His eyes were sharp and deep, giving him an air of authority without even trying. He wore no name tag, but that steady aura of someone long in power made it clear at a glance that he was the head of the investigation team, Team Leader Wang. The man and woman beside him looked like his deputies. They were looking down, flipping through documents, their expressions equally serious. "Hello, Team Leader Wang. I'm Xie Lin. This is my attorney, Wang Feng," I said, taking the lead. I greeted him with calm respect. Team Leader Wang looked up, his gaze lingering on our faces for a few seconds, a look that felt like it could see right through us. He nodded and pointed to the seats opposite him. "Have a seat." After we sat down, no one bothered with pleasantries. The meeting went straight to the point. "Comrade Xie Lin," Team Leader Wang began, his voice low and powerful. "We have already gathered some preliminary information about the Emerald Jiangnan project through various channels. We also saw the press conference you held. We invited you here today because we want to hear a more comprehensive and detailed presentation. Our investigation team's principle is not to let a single bad person go, but also never to wrong an innocent one. Speak only the truth. The focus is evidence." He emphasized the word evidence very heavily. I nodded and looked at Wang Feng. Understanding the cue, Wang Feng opened his briefcase and gently pushed a thick stack of neatly bound documents to the center of the conference table. "Team Leader Wang, leaders, these are all the materials we have prepared." Wang Feng's voice was cool and professional. "Regarding the narrative of the entire incident, we have divided it into 3 parts. Part 1 is the complete chain of evidence for the window incident." Wang Feng pulled out the topmost document, which included details about the complete phone call between Mr. Xie Lin and property manager Yang Hemming. A video recording of the developer, Lin Dacheng, showing up at the door to make threats. And multi-angle videos filmed by over 100 homeowners on the rooftop of the unfinished building. This evidence is sufficient to prove that the developer and the property management, knowing full well that the building was incomplete, still used fabricated facts to defraud and extort Mr. Xie Lin. The female team member beside Team Leader Wang took the documents. She flipped through them quickly, her brow furrowing tighter the more she read. The second part is the chain of evidence detailing the developer's retaliatory actions. Wang Feng took out another document. This includes photos of the damaged vehicle belonging to Mr. Chen Wenqing, a member of the homeowners committee, a video, and what we tracked down through technical means, the IP address that first spread the rumors online about Xie Lin embezzling public funds, and the account information. At the same time, there is also a report from our law firm regarding the incident of Mr. Xie Lin's resignation that year. A complete clarification of the facts and evidence. This evidence points to one clear fact. After the homeowners decided to defend their rights through legal channels, the developer took a series of illegal and threatening measures to intimidate, slander, and manipulate public opinion, attempting to obstruct the homeowners' lawful actions to protect their rights. Team Leader Wang's fingers tapped gently on the tabletop. His expression grew more and more grave. And the third part, which we believe is the most crucial part, Wang Feng's tone became even more serious. He took out the last and most critical document. This is what we discovered after cross-referencing the home purchase contracts provided by over 260 homeowners and their payment receipts, and after conducting a professional analysis of Zhangcheng Red Leaf Real Estate Company, Limited, regarding the major financial problems that may exist in the Emerald Jiangnan project. He opened the document, pointing to one of the pages, a cash flow analysis chart prepared by a professional accountant. We found that the total payments from all homeowners, exceeding 700 million yuan, did not all go into the project's regulatory account. Nearly 300 million yuan of those funds, after entering the regulatory account, were passed through several seemingly unrelated shell companies and transferred out, ultimately flowing to Lin Dacheng personally and other investment projects controlled by his relatives. A portion of the funds even flowed overseas. This is the fundamental reason why the Emerald Jiangnan project's capital chain broke, ultimately leaving the building unfinished. This is no longer a simple case of mismanagement, but suspected contract fraud, illegal fundraising, and embezzlement of funds, a serious economic crime. Wang Feng's words hit like a bombshell, causing the air in the entire conference room to freeze. Team Leader Wang stopped tapping his fingers on the desk. He took the cash flow chart and studied it carefully with the male team member beside him. Their expressions were more serious than ever before. After a long while, Team Leader Wang looked up, his gaze as sharp as a torch fixed on me. "Comrade Xie Lin, lawyer Wang Feng, do you know what submitting this material means?" I met his gaze and answered calmly. "I do. It means there's no room for turning back between us and Lin Dacheng. It also means we are entrusting the lives and fortunes of our more than 200 families to the investigation team," Wang Feng added. "Team Leader Wang, I also have some leads. Lin Dacheng has been in Zhangcheng for many years. His tyrannical behavior and possible connections with some local criminal. He has ties to the E-gang, that's why he dares to be so brazen, embezzling the owner's funds and so shamelessly threatening and intimidating them. Is that there's likely a huge protective umbrella behind him. We implore the investigation team to include these leads in the scope of the investigation and dig deep to the bottom." Eradicating evil is a never-ending task. Team leader Wang gave us a deep look. Then slowly stood up. He didn't say any grand words. He just solemnly picked up the 3 documents and said to Wang Feng and me in a deep voice. On behalf of the joint investigation team, I thank you for providing this important information and evidence. Please believe in the organization's determination, and please believe in the power of the people's democratic dictatorship. We will immediately set up a special task force to investigate the economic crimes you've reported, and the leads related to criminal and gang activities, and conduct a thorough investigation. During the investigation, we will protect, in accordance with the law, the personal safety of you, the homeowners' representatives. Go home and wait for news. The sky in Zhongcheng won't be dark forever. After leaving the compound, the early morning sun was just breaking through the clouds, shining down on us. I looked up at the azure sky and let out a long sigh of relief. I knew that the last piece of darkness before the dawn was about to be completely torn apart. The investigation team's actions were much swifter than anyone had anticipated. On the afternoon of the second day after our meeting with team leader Wang, a dozen police cars silently surrounded the Hongyi Real Estate Headquarters building, located in the CBD of downtown Zhongcheng. Police officers in uniform and staff members wearing investigation team credentials quickly secured all entrances and exits, sealing off the entire building. The employees of Hongyi Real Estate were stunned by the sudden raid, each ordered to stay at their workstation. They were not allowed to move around freely or use any communication devices. The company's servers, ledgers, and files, under the supervision of professional auditors and technicians, were confiscated, copied, and taken away. This operation, dubbed the Zhongcheng Storm by the media, spread throughout the city in a very short time. Countless citizens gathered outside the police cordon, holding up their phones to film this historic moment. The once invincible real estate giant was so vulnerable in the face of the state apparatus. At this moment, however, Lin Dacheng was completely unaware of this. He was hiding in a heavily guarded lakeside villa in the suburbs, anxiously waiting for news from lawyer Qian. He could no longer contact any of his friends. Those people either didn't answer his calls or used the coldest tone to tell him not to contact them again. His last hope rested on lawyer Qian and the so-called Plan B. Using a counterfeit ID, he would flee abroad from the neighboring city's airport overnight. Lawyer Qian said that as long as he got abroad, there would be ways to exploit legal loopholes and use his overseas assets to let him live a life of leisure and pleasure. However, he waited until late at night, but what came was not a call from lawyer Qian to pick him up for his escape, but the loud sound of the villa's main gate being violently broken down, and the stern shouts of, "Police! Don't move!" Lin Dacheng rushed to the window, and after just one look, he collapsed to the floor in a heap. The villa's courtyard had been completely surrounded by police cars and heavily armed special police. The alternating red and blue police lights, casting a deathly pale light on his face, which was twisted with terror. His last illusion was shattered. He thought about resisting. He thought about getting the weapon he kept in the safe for self-defense. But looking at the dark muzzles of the guns outside the window, what little courage he had left instantly crumbled. A few minutes later, Boss Lin, who once commanded the wind and rain in Zhongcheng, had his hands cuffed brightly behind his back, like a lost and defeated stray dog. He was escorted out of the villa by 2 special officers. His hair was a mess. His shirt was torn, and his face no longer showed any of its former arrogance. All that was left was ash and despair. The moment he was pushed into the police car, he saw, through the car window, lawyer Qian, who was also in handcuffs. Lawyer Qian's glasses were broken, and his face was bruised. He had clearly put up a struggle. Their eyes met. Lin Dacheng's eyes were filled with venom and regret, while lawyer Qian lowered his head in shame. Lin Dacheng's capture was just the beginning. The net that was centered on him, spreading across both worlds of Zhongcheng, was finally pulled tight. The property manager, Yang Hemming, after being detained for many days, his mental defenses completely collapsed. Like beans spilling from a bamboo tube, he confessed how, over the years, under Lin Dacheng's orders, he had skimmed from the maintenance fund, bullied the homeowners, and even cooperated with some criminal gangs to carry out a series of criminal acts like violent threats. Those former colleagues whom Lin Dacheng had paid to slander me online were arrested out of town by the cyber police. They confessed to the entire process of being paid by lawyer Qian to commit slander, and were full of remorse for their actions. What was even more shocking was that, as the investigation deepened behind the failed Jade Zhongnan project, more horrifying truths were revealed. It turned out that, not only had Lin Dacheng embezzled the homeowners' payments, but he had also used methods like falsifying project costs and forging contracts to fraudulently obtain hundreds of millions in development loans. He also colluded with some people in charge of the project at the time to acquire the land at an extremely low price. He also falsified information at many stages, including planning and fire safety, creating huge safety hazards. Unearthing one crime led to another. Because of Lin Dacheng's case, Zhongcheng experienced an unprecedented earthquake. Everyone was on edge, the entire city of Zhongcheng, because of this case that started with a non-existent window. was swept up in a storm that washed away the filth and rectified the culture, a storm of integrity. On the TV news channel was a report on the latest developments in the major economic crime case involving the Lin Da-Chang syndicate. The host, with a passionate tone of voice, was talking about the municipal committee's firm resolve to crack down on gangs, eliminate evil, and protect the people's livelihood. I was sitting on the sofa at home, calmly watching it all. My phone chimed. It was a message in the homeowners group chat, sent by Chen Wenqing. He had posted a screenshot from the TV news showing Lin Da-Chang being put into a police car. Below it were just 3 words, "The sky is bright." And under that, hundreds of homeowners had uniformly replied with, +1. I turned off the TV and walked to the window. Looking at the bright, clear moon outside, I thought, yes, the sky is bright now. But for those of us who, in the darkness, suffered for more than 2 years, just seeing the dawn isn't enough. What we want is the warm sun that should have been shining on us after the sky turned bright. Time is the best healer, and also the most just judge. 6 months later, the highly anticipated major economic criminal case of Lin Da-Chang finally came to a close. The verdict from the Zhangcheng Intermediate People's Court, like a hammer of justice, struck the final note. Lin Da-Chang, for his multiple crimes, was sentenced to life imprisonment, deprived of political rights for life, and all his personal assets were confiscated. His business empire, the money and power he had chased his entire life, all turned to dust in the end. He will be behind high walls, spending the rest of his life repenting for his sins. Lawyer Qian was sentenced to 15 years in prison. The legal brilliance he was so proud of ultimately became the very tool that sent him to prison. Property manager Yang Hemming, along with the thugs and online trolls who participated in the intimidation and rumor-mongering, were also sentenced to between 3 and 10 years in prison, depending on the severity of their crimes. What awaited them was also the severe punishment of the law. A web of crime that had loomed over Zhangcheng for many years was completely torn apart. All the wrongdoers paid the price they deserved. For us homeowners of Jade River South, while it was deeply satisfying to see the bad guys punished, we were more concerned about the fate of that unfinished building that held our dreams of settling down. Under the leadership of the Joint Investigation Team, a meeting that would decide our final destiny was held in the auditorium of the municipal government. On one side of the meeting were the representatives of the Homeowners Association, led by me. On the other side were staff from the relevant government departments, as well as a new face from the largest state-owned construction group in Zhangcheng. Representative from Zhangcheng Construction, Team Leader Wang personally presided over this meeting. He first informed us of the results of Red Leaf Real Estate's asset liquidation. Due to Lin Da-Chang's reckless spending and transferring of assets, the company's liabilities had long exceeded its assets. The remaining assets were far from enough to cover the project's subsequent construction costs. Upon hearing this news, the faces of the homeowner representatives, which had just shown a glimmer of joy, were once again covered by a shadow of gloom. Just as everyone's hearts sank, Team Leader Wang changed his tone. But, he raised his voice, his gaze sweeping over every homeowner representative. We will absolutely not let ordinary people pay for the crimes of criminals. He pointed to the Zhangcheng construction representative beside him. After careful consideration, we have decided that the most powerful and reputable Zhangcheng construction group will fully take over the subsequent construction of Jade River South, Phase 3. We will allocate special funds as startup capital to ensure the project can resume without any obstacles. Zhangcheng Construction has also promised to complete all construction and renovation work at cost, guaranteeing both quality and quantity, so that the homeowners can live in safe and secure homes. And the most important point is, Team Leader Wang's voice echoed in the huge auditorium, all homeowners will not have to spend another cent. After a brief moment of silence, the auditorium erupted in thunderous applause and cheers. The emotions that had been suppressed for more than 2 years were completely released at this moment. Many of the elderly homeowners could no longer control their emotions. They burst into tears of joy on the spot, hugging one another, patting each other on the back, sharing this long overdue joy in the simplest of ways. I stood in the crowd watching all of this, and my own eyes couldn't help but get a little misty. From receiving that absurd demand for compensation to the standoff on the rooftop. From the media exposure to the legal battles, and finally, to MJ's intervention. Along this long journey, we've endured so much doubt and intimidation. The divisions, the agony, but in the end, we made it through. We're here. We traded our unity and perseverance for this final victory. 1 year later, Phase 3 of Emerald Riverside was officially delivered. The construction site that was once overgrown with weeds has been transformed into a beautiful community, full of lush trees and the sound of birds. Row after row of brand new buildings glisten in the sunlight. That once cold, concrete skeleton is now wrapped in a warm exterior. I finally have the keys to Unit 1201 in my hands. The apartment is fully finished and spotless, with sunlight streaming through the windows. I walked specifically to that window, the one where this whole story began. I pushed it open, and a fresh breeze rushed in. Looking out from here, you can see the fountain in the central garden and the skyline of the city in the distance. This window is real, bright, and sturdy. On moving day, the residence's group chat was incredibly lively. This new group was set up by the new management company. There were no more complaints or anger. Instead, it was filled with warm greetings between neighbors and dreams for our new lives. Calling everyone, tonight at 7 p.m. On the great lawn of the Central Garden, our homeowners committee is hosting a housewarming barbecue. If you can chip in, please do. Everyone is welcome to bring their families. That was the message Chen Wenxing sent to the group. He's now the honorary consultant for the new homeowners committee. Immediately, the screen was flooded with, "I'll be there," and all sorts of celebratory emojis. I'm in, wouldn't miss it. I put down my phone. Downstairs, children are chasing each other on the grass, while the adults gather in small groups, chatting about life. Every face is glowing with a happy smile. Suddenly, I understand. This might be the most perfect ending to the story. We fought the dragon and won. Not to become heroes, but just so we could be like this. To return to a simple, peaceful life. In a room with a view. Feeling the warmth of the sun, waiting for a barbecue with my neighbors. This world is a strange place. Sometimes, you give it your absolute all, just to protect the simple happiness that should have belonged to you all along.